Hi there, you guys, and welcome to Real Estate Divas. I'm Jerleigh Thompson with Texel Real Estate.
And I'm Kristin Gerst with Capricorn Mortgage.
And today we are going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is 10 places to invest outside of the country.
And I love this topic.
I do too, because ultimately that's what I'd like to be doing and living, half and half, whatever it takes. If I need to be there half the time.
This is my retirement plan.
Exactly.
To buy a couple places outside the U.S. where I want to personally spend time and, rent them out when I'm not there.
Exactly. In fact, I was watching, I don't know if you watched it, a little off topic, but I was watching Katie. She interviewed a rental woman out in Queens. And one of her first purchases was the Dominican Republic, which we're going to be talking about here
made our list
shortly. But she bought it because they wanted a place to go.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, my favorite subject, one of your favorite subjects, let's go ahead and get started with the top 10 picks for 2020. So this is a pretty recent list.
Yeah. No, and there's reasons why they make the list. And fast forward 5 years or reverse 5 years, the list is going to be different because, unfortunately, lots of things happen.
Yeah, just look at the last 4.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you one of the
last year.
Exactly. Our last year has changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
So what makes a good property? A lot of times will depend on who's the government is and who's in charge, and
if there's a pandemic.
If there's a coup d'etat.
Yeah. So many factors as far as what it could take. But let's start with Panama. That was one of the number one for 2020.
It's made number one list for
several years.
So I didn't know. Well, apparently there's a lot of Chinese money.
Yes.
Flowing into Panama.
And really and truly, that's a key. If you're going, let's say you're visiting or something, you're vacationing somewhere, and you start to see a lot of Chinese in particular, but Asian money coming into, or you're talking to somebody, and they're like, yeah, they're moving in here and they're buying up a bunch of property. That should throw up some red flags for you of, oh, is it too late to get in here? Should I start moving in this direction? If you love it and you think and do your research, because that's some money you should follow for sure.
Right.
I know when I was in Africa, that's one of the big things is they're buying up a lot of Africa.
Well, and Panama has the canal.
Yeah.
That links, the east to the west or the west to the east, and so you've got a lot of business down there. The U.S. has a strong
shipping.
U.S. has a strong presence in Panama to make sure that canal is secured and nobody gets it. So economically,
it makes a lot of sense.
Right. But then you also have gorgeous beaches and everything. So there's a lot of even vacation rentals to go after.
Well, and that's one thing that we'll see when we go through the whole top 10. There's usually always a beach involved. It's there. If there's a tourism factor there, then it boils down to what's the tourism factor and how easy is it to buy here? Because that's another factor that you've got to really consider.
And how easy is it to borrow money?
Borrow money as a foreigner.
As a foreigner, as an expat, to be able to borrow money and buy there. But again, when you're looking at something, you're right, and beaches are important, but we are talking about Americans owning something abroad. What's fun about owning something, internationally if you never go there? So obviously you don't necessarily want to rent it out long term, but
if that ends up being your option, then that's your option, But yeah, if you can do the short-term rental, the Airbnbs, and make more money doing that and still be able to block out your vacation time to go visit that property, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people do it all the time here in the States. Why not?
The one thing I did love about Panama, which I didn't know, apparently their interior land is extremely fertile. So a really great investment is buying vacant land and then renting it out to farmers.
Oh, interesting.
Which I love. There's no upkeep on stuff like that.
Exactly. And that's kind of That's the speculation. So it's kind of like land speculation. Yes, you're making money on that property right now, on that section of land right now, but you're also speculating that it's going to continue to appreciate without doing anything to it. I mean,
it is staggering how much even American farmland has appreciated in value. So looking at that, yeah. And eventually, there's not enough land.
Yeah, as they say, there's only so much land, so get your pieces now. So the next one, what would we say? Brazil was the second one on our list.
Yes, Brazil,
huge country. Obviously, there's a lot to pick from there. You're going to want to focus in on the heavy tourist areas, which are the beaches, which are gorgeous.
Well,
from what I hear.
And the Brazilians have had a rise in economic prosperity over the last decade as well. And so there is a huge Brazilian middle class that loves to go to their own beaches. And Brazil is enormous.
It is. It's enormous. And also talk about some very fertile land and gorgeous interior. That's something to look at. And they're large cities are very vibrant. They get a lot of tourism. So there's a lot of different areas in Brazil that you could do either as tourism on a coast, interior, in some of those forests,
Right.
A lot of, like you've seen on the Airbnbs, whenever you're looking for a property that has something to do with it, like what is there an excursion? Is there, some place I can go that's right there next to it? Those type of properties, and especially now, I know whenever I've been traveling over the last, not that I've been traveling a lot, but over the last 6 months, I picked something that I know I can go to on a hike fairly close, or there's some gorgeous waterfall somewhere close, that sort of access to some nature, beauty, and away from people.
Well, the nice thing is, and sorry for all you Spanish speakers, please remember, Brazil, they speak Portuguese there. So, but when you go down there, because the Brazilian currency, which I'm trying to remember what they use down there, it is extremely weak compared to the U.S. dollar. So if you're American, your buying power is huge.
Yeah.
And can go down. And so really when you're looking at beachfront property, you can get it for a huge bargain compared to a lot of other places in the world just because the U.S. dollar is so strong there.
Great to know. Great yields, weak local market. That's always something that you want to look for if we're trying to purchase a property in that country, purchase a vacation property, Airbnb, that sort of thing.
And scanning down.
We've got Ryan Harper. That's right, Mr. Harper, on our notes today. Feeding us our notes today.
Yeah. So number 3, Dominican Republic, which tons of people go to the DR.
Yeah, especially on the East Coast. Like, I notice that a lot. Like, us being here in Texas, we're going to the Bahamas. We're going to, it's weird how they're very close together, but most of the East Coasterners, whatever you want to call them, they end up going to the Dominican quite a bit. Yeah. Like, they don't go further down that chain of islands out that way. The Dominican seems to be the choice.
Right. Yeah. But there's also a lot of business travelers, especially going to the Santo Domingo. So if you're doing short-term rentals, but for maybe week or 2 week long business travelers who don't want to stay in a hotel, Dominican Republic is an excellent place. And, I started my short-term rental business here in Dallas catering to business travelers. I've now, because of COVID, moved into nurses, but it's the same.
But still, it's the same deal. And that's a very, very good point. Is with business, anybody that's doing long-term stays, but you're not going to rent an apartment, and very, very seldom can you even get a 6-month rent, much less a 1 month rent. And you don't want to be in one of those hotels that are renting by the week. Then you want the amenities
especially in a possibly third world nation.
Exactly.
Where, yeah, your, our 3-star is, or their 3-star is actually a 1-star here in the U.S.
Yep.
And you wouldn't want to stay there at all. So looking for something that's a really nice, high quality rental that they can do long term for a couple weeks or a month, or repeat. Maybe they're down there 1 week a month, and so they want to come down
and that's their second home away from home. They have the amenities of a kitchen. They don't have to go out all the time, or just the easy accessibility to wherever it is they're going, because you most likely would want to buy something like that in a very metropolitan area near, businesses, because that's business travelers.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a good point as far as when you're picking out, don't always look for just the vacation rental or the tourist rental. The long-term and business traveler is definitely a prospect as well.
Yeah. So number 4, Thailand.
Thailand's on my bucket list.
Mine too.
Yeah, that one's going to be probably once everything's kind of cleared up with the COVID business, then, or I say cleared up, once travel and everybody's...
Resumes, we've got a vaccine, all of that.
All of that business. Then Thailand is at the top of my list, and it has been for years.
Mine too, and I've got some friends over there, and they're like, you will love Thailand. Another very cheap place to go where the U.S. dollar is extremely strong. So, they have housekeepers who live over, like multiple servants. They have a driver. They have a housekeeper. And then the housekeeper has an assistant. And their laundry is sent out. And they don't do anything,
Well, and that's the whole beauty of certain countries. When you're leaving the U.S., we work so hard. We try so hard to just, the quid pro quo of just maintaining our household, our kids, and all their activities, and then colleges and everything, all the expenses constantly going out, and you're, middle class. Well, you take that income and you put it over there, and now
you live like a king.
Absolutely. Everything is taken care of. Somebody's prepping your meals. What would you like to eat tonight? Kristin, what are we having for dinner tonight, Kristin? I don't know.
Whatever it is.
How about I'll take steak, she'll take shrimp. But Thailand is also one of those countries where not only is it's been on the top travel destination for several years in a row, surveys across the board, top travel destination.
Bangkok was number 1 in 2018.
Yeah, and has been several times.
Number 1 visited city in the world.
That is just crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I would have put it,
maybe,
over Paris, over...
Yeah, all of these major
Barcelona,
destinations
Rome.
that we always think of. I would not have thought that, because I like to pick, and I know you do too, some destinations when we're going on vacation that are not as well traveled.
Right.
And so you pick something a little different. I want to experience something different, not that everybody goes to, but to hear that Bangkok is number 1.
I know, and I haven't been there.
And then,
I have
then
major
that.
FOMO right now.
So the more we talk about it.
So important thing to note about Thailand, though. Foreign investors cannot actually buy
the land.
They have to do what's known as a leasehold. I didn't see exactly how long that they would do that for. I'm assuming it's similar to England, where it's a 99-year leasehold. So it's kind of like you're buying it, but it's not exactly.
Well, and another, I know that whenever I've been reading and trying to figure out, what are the workarounds, or what are some of the investor workarounds that they've done in these countries where you can't actually purchase the land as a foreigner, is then you're partnering with actual businessmen, or, whether you've got family there or friends that are natives, that's their country, and you're partnering with them so that you actually can be a part of owning land.
Man, I like the condo thing.
Yeah.
Because you can own a condo as long as you don't own so many condos that you make up over half of the ownership.
Exactly.
I like that. I would have a hard time letting somebody else own the land and what, I'd build a house on it.
Well, I mean, the partnership, I'm just talking about if you're
I know.
getting creative and you want to
Yes.
make sure, like, I'm part owner of this land and I'm doing it through
Yeah.
all of this, mainly paperwork, but they own it. Y'all have got an agreement on top of that, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I just know investors over there investors investing in countries where you can't own land
Right.
get pretty creative with some of the deals they put together,
Absolutely.
which is what you got to do.
All right, number 5 is Portugal.
Portugal is awesome. Now that's one I've been to. Now we got to one at
Yeah,
least
no,
one.
and I've been there, but it hasn't been for many years. I've got some friends who they've recently been, like in the last 18 months, and they're like, it is so cheap. So if you're looking for a cheap destination, I'm talking 5-course meals for $5
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous beaches.
and great weather.
Yes.
I mean, it's warm. You gotta like some
Yeah.
food, but
But I mean, then they also have, yes, it's warm, but they have some mountainous areas. It's just it's a gorgeous, and the food is delicious. I found the food to be I liked it better than Spanish food, but that was just me, you know.
Well,
But it just was. I love seafood, so there's that.
yeah. So as long as the other advantage to Portugal is that you can borrow for banks there. They will lend you money as an American and a non-resident of Portugal.
They'll lend you money to buy and purchase a house, a condo,
Right
real
there,
estate property. Right there.
I would say that is something that would
That's
put
key.
Portugal at the top of my list.
Absolutely. Well, and it's so easily accessible to, you're on one coast, but you've got the rest of Europe there that you can go and visit. If you've got that property
And let's not forget North Africa,
yeah,
because you're talking about a ferry ride
exactly, over to Morocco.
Yep. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for Portugal. So yeah.
And those southern beaches. Now, I've never seen or been to the southern beaches of Spain and Portugal, but I hear those are phenomenal.
Yes,
I've seen pictures.
and just being able to visit little islands, like Mallorca. And
Yeah,
all of
Mallorca's
that.
awesome. All right, so number 6 is France.
I love that France made the list.
Yeah.
Obviously,
She's a little partial, in case you didn't know.
I know. Well, and that's been a lifelong thing of mine. Just to have a Paris apartment and then a little pied-à-terre, foot on the ground in southern France. I've already picked out the little fishing village that I would love to have just a little apartment in. So just a place to vacation. And
Well, and I'm kind of surprised because I always think of Paris as being uber expensive,
Paris is uber expensive.
if you're vacationing there or anything, as well as I do, or if you haven't, even with the euro, it's expensive.
So, and the U.S. dollar is strong right now.
Yes.
But it is nothing like what it was 20 years ago. I am kicking myself for not buying something 20 years ago. And, there was this amazing chateau that we were on vacation and we saw in Normandy. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's like on the beach. It's absolutely beautiful. And, looking at it there, we could have picked it up for like $100,000. There's no way we're going to do that
20
now.
years ago, $100,000 did. I hate to be my grandparents, but it was a lot more money 20 years ago.
But this is a chateau. Now,
Yeah,
granted, it
true.
didn't need a lot of work. It was a wreck. But
Yeah.
still, it was a castle
It was
on
a
the
chateau.
beach. It was a chateau on
Yeah.
I think
Normandy.
you should take a moment and speak about how regretful you are about missing that opportunity, but you say it all in French. For the next 20 to 30 seconds.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. My brain's for
Oh, so you don't speak French. Got
Oui,
it.
je parle
And next.
français. Et c'est très désolé que je n'achetais pas les châteaux et surtout cet château sur la plage avec les fenêtres merveilleuses. Was that enough?
But
Oh.
now you need to now you need to start crying. Start crying though, because I felt like
Are
you're
you-
gonna start crying.
Yeah, you do. Well, you need to pout a little bit
Yeah,
more.
yeah. Now, talk about how beautiful it was in French.
I don't know what's going on here, but I think it needs to stop.
I know, right? Then the next thing I'm hearing Ryan goes like, "Can you say my name? Just say my name.
Just
Say my name."
Yeah, and then you say Ryan.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh, Ryan. Oh, Ryan.
So, for speaking on it being expensive, what you did find was
You can get a mortgage rate as an American and a foreigner, not even a resident there, for less than 2% interest.
that's crazy town. I was so
I'm not
surprised for that.
I'm not even sure I could do that here for a house.
No, you can't refi for that half the time. Oh my gosh. And we're at record lows.
And we're at record lows. But remember, in certain European and like places like Japan, they have negative interest rates. So yes, I mean, if you've got negative interest rates, so for banks to make money, they've got to get anybody who they possibly can to come in and borrow this. So yeah, why not look outside your borders? But the crazy thing is, loan to values as high as 85%. Which is also crazy.
That also, yeah, you're like, okay, we're flying to Paris. Let's get out of here. Actually, I think they're on lockdown now.
I think they're back on lockdown. Yeah. Actually, they just started a curfew.
Curfew, yeah.
9 p.m. is their curfew. But anyways, for foreigners, yeah, mortgage rates less than 2% with an 85% loan to value. So all you need to bring is 15% down. Staggering, great deal.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is crazy. I'm going to be thinking about that tonight. I'm going to be researching properties.
I got to tell you, I already did. I already got on there. I'm like, okay, let's see what we can pick up.
Yeah. What are we going to do? It? Yeah. Sight unseen.
I would, you know what? And for certain
for the right price,
I would almost go sight unseen. If that's really all we need, I'm like, okay, I'm getting $15,000. Yeah. $100,000 condo. I'll find you.
Well, I would say number 7 is probably not a surprise to anybody here in America, is Mexico.
We know tons of people. I mean, I know tons of people who have places
in Mexico, interior Mexico, up in the mountains, on the coast. Know people all over the United States that have second homes in Mexico, and it's fruitful. You know, I mean, and they love it there. Some, I mean, like you and I were talking about, that's their retirement. Make money, don't make money, we'll come and visit, but that's my retirement.
I'm going to buy this. I'm paying it off over the next 10, 15 years while I finish working, and then that's where I'm going to be.
Exactly.
In the future, which I love that idea.
I do too. I mean, if you can live and your retirement lasting way longer, you're able to live, like we said, like a king. Right. In these types of areas. And that's the whole, and I think later on we'll probably end up doing some sort of expat community investment and diving into all of that. And Mexico is one of those destination points where you're able to let your money last so long.
So, yeah, and you know, and while I always go to like a resort, I know a lot of people who have apartments, condos down there, and yeah, you get to be part of a certain resort, but you own that condo. So I don't know what the HOA dues would be for that. I can imagine that's gonna, you know,
that's gonna play a part, but that's also gonna be a part of, you know, just like any purchase, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna analyze that purchase and add in those HOA dues and know that they're going to go up just like property taxes.
Right.
And know that, okay, is this what I really want to be paying on my monthly nut or yearly or however else it's worked out. But Mexico, yes, always a plus.
Yeah. And it is easy to get financing because the Mexican banks, which are actually just subsidiaries of American banks, are the ones doing the lending down there.
Yep.
So it's not hard for Americans and Canadians to get financing to buy any property in Mexico. So it gets added to that list along with Portugal and France. It's nice.
It's nice.
Yeah. So number 8, Belize.
Now I dove deep into the whole Belize thing there for a minute because I had a friend of mine leave. She was doing hair, left, gave it up. Went down there.
And she moved to Belize?
She moved to Belize. And I was like, isn't Belize kind of expensive? And she goes, no, it's not. You know, I mean, when she was down there living, now granted, the islands aren't very big. And what you're renting is, if you're renting right there in the very touristy parts, then it's it gets pretty expensive, you
Right.
know. But if you just go a little further out, we're talking a bike ride. We're not even talking, we're not talking 30 miles. We're talking a 10-minute bike ride. And she could purchase a property really easy, and the cost of living was minimal. And she said it's a real community down there. So,
And they speak English in Belize, don't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah, they do.
So that's an easy one for everybody who's a little afraid to go to a place where they don't speak the language. And I have to imagine that, there will still be a great increase from American and Canadians going down and moving to Belize because of just the lack of language requirements,
exactly.
So yeah, rental investments for, of course, short term. The one place that's really kind of picking up in popularity, but you can still find undervalued compared to the rest of the Caribbean, is the Ambergris Caye.
Yes. Well, because the section that, just like I said, from my deep dive one night, or a couple of nights, that section that is very populated. I mean, that's the hot spot. That's the rest of the island is fairly undeveloped, and they
Right.
like to keep everything spaced out. They're not trying to heavy develop those islands, but you can get in there.
So, and then the other thing with Belize and a lot of other of these Caribbean nations are finding decent long-term rentals.
Yes.
Where in some cases I've seen places that were renting out, they had the outhouse out back. I mean, lacking an actual bathroom inside whatever you're renting. That's not uncommon down in some of these Caribbean areas. So being able to find decent, affordable housing to even rent on a long term is hard for some of these people. So, and that, that kind of, that really makes, if you're going down there and you're like, all right, well, I want to have a long-term apartment too. Or maybe you're, you've bought that short-term rental on the beach, and somebody comes to you, hey, I've got this great deal, fix it up. You could rent this out for X amount of dollars.
Yep.
So yeah, I find that all, pretty interesting. And Belize seems like a place that is still underpriced. It's not like you're, trying to go to the,
Turks and Caicos and
BVI.
stuff. Yep.
Yeah, well,
Although that's on the list.
That's on
the
list.
I
I was
was
shocked, too.
surprised. Okay, we'll get to that one.
Number 9.
Number 9, Turkey.
I love Turkey. Have you been?
I haven't. That's on my bucket list. And then things got crazy, and then I put it at the bottom of my bucket list. But it's one of those.
My sister-in-law is Turkish.
Get out.
Yeah, so my brother and my sister-in-law got married in Istanbul.
Neat.
I've been to Turkey multiple times.
I'm jealous. We haven't had this conversation.
weeks-
I'm so jealous.
Spent weeks all over Turkey, and in fact, I spent 3 weeks on a catamaran sailing around the coast of Turkey, dotting between
awesome.
Turkey and Greece. So
That's awesome.
Turkey is an amazing country, and my first time over there was 2007, and you think it's Muslim, everybody's going to be wrapped up. Not at all. Up until about 4 years ago,
Yes.
it was very much Western dress. And in fact, their whole history from like the turn of the century, the last turn of the century, early 1900s, was that we are going to be a Western nation. So they would only allow Western business suits and all of that, which is how they've become such a strong ally of the U.S. The attempted coup in 2016 has scared off investors and other things such as, the current president has gotten a lot more Islamic.
Yeah, a lot more stringent over there and pushing more, from what I understand, pushing that agenda and...
when tens of thousands of reporters, businessmen, all that are rounded up and put into jail, it tends to scare some stuff up. But even still, in 2018, Istanbul was the 9th most visited city.
Wow.
And I gotta tell you, the people are amazing. You don't think you can speak anything else? Very few speak English that I have found. out.
Yep.
So you get there and you kind of grunt and point at the picture. They luckily will put a picture of whatever the food looks like, and I'm like, ugh.
Well, with it being a high traffic tourist area, then they're used to that. They're used to a lot of people coming through and not being able to speak the language. So, yeah, making it easy for travelers. That was one of those spots that whenever I was backpacking around Europe in my 20s, that everybody's kept telling me, you gotta go to Turkey. You gotta go to Turkey.
Oh, Turkey's
and being there a month and a half for whatever reason, I didn't think I had enough time to get to Turkey and still visit all the places I wanted to visit, and so I didn't make it a priority, and I regret it. But
yeah, no,
but it's coming.
I mean, and the stuff you see about it in the movies and stuff is just not. Do you want to hear my Turkish, Ryan?
You speak Turkish?
I have a smattering.
A smattering.
I do.
I've got a smattering.
I'm like beer içi üç dört beş. So I can count to 5. I can order 5 beers. Şerefe, you have to know how to cheers. Görüşürüz, that means goodbye. And then I've got, nasılsınız. And then if somebody says that to you, go siz nasılsınız, which is kind of like a greeting of like welcome. And my best one, I am so drunk. That is sarhoş oldum.
I think I need to know that one. No,
the story
I'm joking.
was like that's all y'all said over and over and over.
To learn our special Turkish phrases out of our Turkish phrase book, we practice jumping off the top of the catamaran because there's nothing else to do, right? So we're drinking, getting really drunk in the middle of the Aegean, and practicing sarhoş oldum, which just means I am so drunk or I'm so wasted.
I have a Turkish coffee story.
Yeah.
I would love to know your Turkish coffee story.
When I was living in Dubai and Doha doing outside sales, like it's rude, like it's custom, hey, would you like a coffee? And it's rude to say no. So outside sales means you're visiting 5, 6, 10 different offices throughout the day, if more, if you're busy. And every single one is like, here's a coffee. And it's usually the Nescafe coffee.
Yeah.
And then, would you like Turkish coffee? Is like, coffee. I heard coffee.
So the answer is?
The answer is absolutely. Because
yes.
you don't want to be rude because it's sales, and you just don't want to be rude. Anyway, I had never had Turkish coffee before. And y'all know how I drink coffee. So I just down this thing, and if you don't know, Turkish coffee, the bottom fourth is all the grounds. And they laughed and laughed, and they had a hoot, because here's this white American dude has no clue how to drink Turkish coffee.
And then you had all the grounds, like, in your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my
awesome.
first I'm sure everybody, that's their first Turkish coffee story.
That wasn't mine.
You knew how to drink it?
Yeah. So anyways,
I only do that just to be an
going
ass.
back to Turkey. The nice thing is there's a lot of low-cost purchase. There's a low cost to purchasing rental properties there. So you can find a lot of great deals.
So you're saying that the property, like the property itself, the property values, some of them are lower.
Yes.
That you're going to be able to pick up those properties pretty easily for a good price. But also, do they lend?
That I don't know about.
Yeah.
If they will,
we're going to have to do a part 2 on this one.
If they will lend to foreigners, like figuring out who will all lend to foreigners. So yeah, that's a big one. But remember that Istanbul used to be Constantinople, and it's split. Part is on the European side. You're already singing the song, right? Part is on the European side. Part is on the Asian side. Mm-hmm. So depending on what side you live on is more expensive, taxed differently, all of that, and is subject to different laws and rules. Majority of Turkey is in Asia. So if you're thinking about any of the coastal beaches, oh my gosh, there's some phenomenal resorts, and Bodrum would be my favorite down there, but they look just as cosmopolitan as any European Mediterranean resort.
It looked to me, everything that I've seen and read about Turkey was one, just so incredibly interesting, the history and just the oldness and the architecture and everything, but then those beaches, like seeing those beaches were absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's in a truly amazing country. If you haven't been, get yourself there. look to pick up some property.
Nice.
And number 10 makes this list, but realistically, I think if you're breaking in, I mean, the higher end and very expensive Turks and Caicos.
Which, that one, yes. I mean, okay, I get why it makes the list.
Because it will lend to non-residents.
Yes, it will lend to non-residents. I also know for a fact that it does have good yields, but those properties are not cheap on Turks and Caicos. You've got to have, that's for those out there watching this, and if y'all are watching this, then I need to know how you made your money. Because, but the Turks and Caicos is, it's going to be higher end, much more affluent area as far as beaches and resorts go. Yeah. You're gonna need some cash to purchase those.
You will. I mean, even if they're going to lend to you, they're still going to expect
some down payments and things like that.
20% down.
But
and notice that make sure that you've got a good cushion and you do have a good yield, because yes, you might be getting this great rental amount today, but maybe not tomorrow.
But the upside of that, one, you've got to be able to have the staying power. But the one thing about Turks and Caicos is it has been consistent and it is constantly appreciating. Sorry, that coffee story.
I got grounds.
I got grounds. But I mean, it appreciates. It's going to hold its value. That is a very exclusive island that is well sought after. So that's the upside. I can see why. That's the real reason why I was like, okay, I guess I can see it's not going to be the bargain.
And they will, but they also will lend to non-residents. And
that's a huge deal. When you're investing overseas, that's
right.
That's it.
So again, if you've got a favorite destination spot, make sure and check out and find out, hey, what are the laws? What are the local banking laws there? And find out if they will lend to non-residents, because it's going to be your major obstacle. Lend to non-residents. Will they allow non-residents to hold land, or is it a leasehold? Can you purchase property? And then also, the government tends to play a huge part into what's more attractive. If that government is up and down, if it's not a stable government, then you most likely want to veer away from a non-stable government. You don't know if all of a sudden they will have a successful coup, and that person's going to decide whether just going to take
your land,
all the property that's owned by Americans.
i.e. Venezuela.
Yes.
Venezuela would be an excellent example. I wasn't going to call anybody out.
In Venezuela, because they're watching. No, that's India that's watching. Well, like she said, just go ahead and drop some comments, share, like, subscribe, and let us know, if there's anything that you like that you've already invested in.
And, another, great thing that we'd love to talk about is, how many people are traveling to a foreign destination? Miss Jerleigh is next week, but because of quarantine and lockdowns and, it's a different kind of travel. We'll mostly be on the resort and contained within our party, and the capacity is low, but it's a purchase that was made back before COVID was a thing. So, it wasn't a thing here. It wasn't worldwide. So it's been pretty dicey. We didn't know if we were going to end up being able to do it, but now we are. And I'll tell you more when I get back. 2021 is going to be a great time to buy. Regardless of what's going on, it's going to be a great time to buy anywhere in the world. So keep an eye on that. And eventually, we will have a vaccine.
Yes, eventually we'll have
we will all be
and
traveling.
We will have our retirement
retirement home.
From an investment standpoint, because the world economy has been,
affected.
Where do you think the most likely that property values may decrease to where there might be a decent investment opportunity, foreign wise?
Everywhere. I mean, there's one.
France. Only France.
I would say there. I don't think there's not going to be a country that's not hit. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be hit evenly distributed between all of their major cities, just like it's not going to be here in the U.S., but everybody will feel the pain.
Malcolm Gladwell, Blink, where do you buy on this list?
I'm buying in France and Portugal.
Jerleigh?
I am going to buy in Portugal and Belize.
And by the way, France
both
is...
of y'all made those choices off of what y'all want
What?
versus what the data.
But did you ask where in France is my first purchase? My first French purchase is actually in the Caribbean, on a French-owned island, and I had that picked out before 2 hurricanes ago, and now that house is no longer there.
The question on the table.
Based on the data?
Based on the data of
right.
2020, based off Corona, based off the world economy being in the kaputs, if that's a word.
It is
I
now.
didn't want to say shitter, but there it is.
There it is. You just did.
I did it. Where Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000 Hours, your first thought, not an emotional response, where do you buy?
Actually, I'm going to go ahead and say either Panama because of all the industry and how it probably got hit, because one, we're talking about any place that's more metropolitan, less spread out, they got hit. There's going to be more restrictions. There's going to be more people having to stay home, more businesses going out of business. And so it's going to affect that market.
See,
harder.
That response makes complete sense to me because 2020 probably hasn't been a lot of shipping going on. That economy has probably been hit a lot, and this is all just superficial, like anecdotal. I haven't researched any of it. But once all this stuff gets lifted, I could see
then
Panama
what's
just
the
being
remnants? Yeah.
Like a 5-year waiting list just to get through the canal.
Yeah.
If it's not already.
Right. Now, I would say, based on this research, I'm still buying in France first. Why? Because of a 2% or less interest rate.
And 85% LTV.
85% loan to value. That's pretty freaking amazing where you can get in with little cash
and
out of
she
pocket.
loves it.
I love the fact that Jerleigh went to, okay, let me go with the data, and then you went to, how can I get the data to support my opinion?
Well, that data was already there.
It was there.
It was already there to support the opinion.
I'm just messing with you.
Out of these 10, there's not a wrong choice. How about that?
Oh.
So, signing off.
Yeah, so you guys drop your comments. Tell us where you've invested or where you want to invest. Or if you have an inside scoop of, hey, you know what? I've done it here and this is how easy it was. Let us know. Drop a comment. Give us a link. Give us your lender. Anything like that. Let's share.
Tell us how we're wrong.
Yeah, or that.
Anyways, also subscribe to our YouTube channel for
Real Estate Divas. I'm Jerleigh Thompson with Texel Real Estate.
And I'm Kristin Gerst with Capricorn Mortgage.
Thanks for joining us. Y'all have a good one.